Everyone you meet is broadcasting their deepest secrets, but you're listening on the wrong frequency. You have been meticulously trained since birth to listen to their words, to analyze their carefully constructed reasons, their logical arguments, and their socially acceptable excuses. But Friedrich Nietzsche, the great diagnostician of the human soul, understood that words are often the most sophisticated form of camouflage. The real message, the authentic signal of the human will, is not in what is said. It's in the music behind the words, the hidden, resonant melody of their deepest drives, fears, and desires. This music is playing constantly, revealing everything. This video is not a collection of surface-level body language tricks or cheap psychological hacks that promise to make you a human lie detector overnight. It is a deep, immersive dive into 3 hidden codes of human behavior, drawn directly from Nietzsche's most profound, challenging, and often controversial work. Think of these codes not as rules, but as lenses. Once you learn how to look through them, the blurry, confusing, and often contradictory image of human nature will snap into razor-sharp focus. This is a journey into the core of human motivation. Each code progressively unlocks the next, revealing a deeper and more fundamental layer of truth. If you skip one, the message remains encrypted, the connections will be lost, and the full, breathtaking picture of the human spirit will remain hidden from you. So I urge you to stay with me, because once you learn to hear this hidden music, once you can distinguish the authentic melody from the social static, you can never go back to just hearing the words. Your perception of the world will be permanently altered. This is the foundation, the very heart of how to read anyone instantly. The first code, the herd instinct. Nietzsche's most uncomfortable and therefore most necessary truth is this: most people are not individuals in the way they desperately believe themselves to be. They are, in essence, echoes. They are living, breathing reverberations of their parents, their friends, their culture, their political tribe, and their endlessly scrolling social media feeds. Their primary, often deeply unconscious drive is not the noble pursuit of truth or the courageous act of authentic self-expression. It is the deep, primal, and often paralyzing fear of being cast out of the herd. This terror of isolation is the ghost in the machine of modern society. It dictates almost everything they do, from the clothes they wear as a social uniform to the beliefs they hold as a sacred badge of belonging. To truly understand a person, you must first understand the invisible gravitational pull of the herd they belong to, and the immense grip it has on their soul. Here are the first, most crucial signs to look for. 1. The borrowed opinion. This is the most common symptom of the herd mind, yet it is the most skillfully disguised. To expose it, you must learn to ask a simple, powerful question. Why? Ask someone why they hold a strong opinion, a passionate political stance, a rigid moral conviction, a cherished life philosophy. A person with real, earned convictions, what Nietzsche would call a conviction born of their own blood and experience, can walk you through their reasoning. It might be messy, it might have contradictions, but it will be theirs. They can tell you about the doubts they've wrestled with, the books that challenged them, the personal experiences that forged their perspective. Their conviction has a living history. A member of the herd, on the other hand, cannot do this. When you ask them why, they can only repeat slogans, headlines, and the pre-approved talking points of their tribe. Their response is a performance, a recitation. If you press them further for the underlying logic, they will not respond with reason. They will respond with emotion, typically aggression or moral outrage. This anger is not the righteous anger of someone whose deep beliefs are being challenged. It is the panicked, cornered anger of someone who has been forced to realize that the ground beneath their feet is not solid rock they built themselves, but a hollow, flimsy platform provided by their group. You have not attacked their idea, you have threatened their very sense of belonging, and that is a threat to their survival. Their opinions are not cherished possessions, they are rental agreements for social acceptance, and the rent is due every single day.
2. The fear of being disliked. A free spirit, the kind of sovereign individual Nietzsche admired, accepts a difficult but liberating truth. Authentic growth and the expression of a unique vision will inevitably create friction and alienate some people. They are not needlessly provocative, but they are willing to pay the price of being misunderstood to be true to themselves. The herd animal, however, lives in a state of constant, low-grade terror of disapproval. They are psychological people-pleasers, relentlessly scanning every social interaction, minutely adjusting their personality, and carefully softening their language to avoid any and all potential conflict. This is not kindness. It is cowardice dressed in the costume of agreeableness.
Watch this person in a group setting, a work meeting, a family dinner. Do they ever voice a truly dissenting opinion, one that carries a real social risk? Or do they wait patiently to see which way the consensus is moving before cautiously offering a slightly modified version of the group's opinion? This perpetual need for external validation is a cage without bars. It forces a person to shrink their soul, to file down its sharp, interesting edges, until it's a smooth, palatable pebble that can fit in anyone's pocket. The tragedy is that in their quest to be liked by everyone, they end up being truly respected by no one, least of all themselves. Their friendliness isn't a sign of an open heart, it's a symptom of a deep-seated fear. They are not your friend, they are a hostage to your good opinion of them.
3. The language of the group. Finally, if you wish to see the herd's influence, you must learn to listen to the very texture of a person's language. Language is not just a tool for communication, it is a declaration of identity. A free spirit struggles with language, wrestling with it to forge new expressions that can carry the weight of their unique perspective. A member of the herd, however, seeks the opposite. They seek the comfort and safety of pre-approved, ready-made language. Listen for the specific words they use. Is their speech rich with authentic, personal metaphor and observation, or is it a collage of the latest jargon from their chosen tribe?
Consider the world of business, with its endless stream of synergies, deliverables, and circle backs. This is not the language of creation, it is the language of conformity, designed to signal membership in the corporate class. Consider the academic world, which often hides behind a wall of impenetrable jargon, not necessarily to be more precise, but to create an exclusive in-group and an intimidated out-group. Or consider the online world, where every subculture has its own dialect of memes and slang, changing weekly. To use the correct slang is to hold the correct password.
This herd language serves two functions: inclusion and exclusion. It warmly embraces those who speak it, making them feel clever and in the know, while it simultaneously alienates and confuses outsiders. It is an intellectual gate.
Using this jargon saves a person from the incredibly difficult work of thinking clearly and explaining a complex idea in simple, accessible terms. It is a way to signal intelligence without the arduous task of actually demonstrating it. When you encounter a person whose speech is more jargon than substance, you are meeting someone who has surrendered their own voice in exchange for the safety of a chorus. The first and most courageous act of rebellion against the herd is to reclaim your own language.
You're starting to notice it now, aren't you? The subtle, invisible architecture of the herd is everywhere. In every office, every family, every group of friends, you see someone bite their tongue rather than risk disapproval. You hear someone repeat a headline with the unearned confidence of an expert. You are no longer just seeing a person, you are seeing the powerful, ancient programming that dictates their behavior from just beneath the surface of their awareness. If you've ever felt this immense pressure to conform, or if you've seen it with this newfound clarity in someone else, drop a comment below and share that moment. Your story will resonate with thousands of others who are beginning to see the same thing. And if this is making you see your world with new eyes, subscribe, because in part 2, we go from the outside in. We must now ask the most important question of all: what happens when a person's life inevitably brings them pain? What happens when the safety of the herd is not enough to protect them from loss, failure, or heartbreak? This brings us to the second and far more personal code.
The second code, the scar and the wound. Nietzsche taught that suffering is not a bug in the system of life, it is a central and unavoidable feature. He famously wrote, "That which does not kill me makes me stronger." But this is one of his most dangerously misunderstood statements. It is not a passive guarantee. It is an active, brutal challenge. Suffering does not automatically ennoble or strengthen anyone. For many, it makes them smaller, more bitter, and more afraid. Pain is merely a raw material. It is a fork in the road for the soul. The path you choose in the face of suffering determines your entire character. Nietzsche believed every person you meet has been hurt, but not everyone has been broken by it. Their pain has either been metabolized into a scar, or it has festered into a wound. A wound is a pain that a person chooses to live inside for the rest of their life. It becomes the dark, damp basement of their personality, from which they view the entire world. A scar, however, is a mark of a healed wound. It is a testament to the fact that they were hurt, deeply, but they overcame. The wound defines them. The scar reminds them of what they have overcome. Here's how to tell the difference. 4. The victim narrative. This is the most revealing diagnostic tool you will ever have. It requires you to listen past the surface details of a person's story and hear the underlying music. When they speak about their life, what is the recurring theme? What is the role they have cast for themselves in their own drama? The person living inside a wound will always tell a story where they are the victim. Their narrative is a curated, well-rehearsed litany of grievances, a story defined by what was done to them, by who betrayed them, by the unfairness of the system. This narrative is intoxicating because it offers a powerful psychological payoff. It absolves them of all responsibility for their own life. It garners a steady supply of pity, which feels like connection, but is actually a cheap substitute. Their story is a closed loop, forever circling the drain of past injustices. The person who has turned their pain into a scar tells a radically different story. They do not deny the pain or the injustice. They look it squarely in the face, but the story does not end there. For them, the hardship was not the end of the story, but the inciting incident of their own heroic journey. They speak of the lessons learned, the strength forged in the fire, the wisdom gained through their ordeal. For example, when speaking of a business that failed, the wounded person will blame their partners, the market, and their bad luck. The scarred person will say, "That failure taught me a lesson about trust and strategy that I could never have learned in a book." The wound gives them a permanent excuse to fail. The scar gives them a powerful reason to succeed. 5. The blame engine. When confronted with significant failure, a personal crisis or a professional setback, you must watch where a person's energy immediately flows. The weak spirit, which Nietzsche identified with the corrosive psychology of resentment, cannot tolerate the immense weight of self-reflection. Their ego is far too fragile to admit fault, so their psychological survival mechanism kicks in, an engine of blame that immediately pushes all that negative energy outward. It must find a target. It must find a scapegoat. This blame engine is fueled by a narrative that converts the humiliating pain of failure into the satisfying, righteous heat of anger.
Think of two people who are passed over for a major promotion. The person living in their wound immediately begins the litany. Their boss is a narcissist. Their co-worker who got the job is a political player. The entire system is rigged. This story, while disempowering, is deeply comforting. It protects their fragile ego from the devastating conclusion that they simply weren't the best candidate. The person with a scar, however, allows themselves to feel the sharp sting of disappointment. But then, after the emotion subsides, they direct their energy inward, not with self-loathing, but with a cold, sober accountability. They ask the terrifying but necessary questions. Where is my skill gap? In what specific areas was the other candidate stronger? What is the honest feedback I need to hear, and how can I use this painful experience to ensure I am undeniable the next time? The resentful spirit needs an external enemy to justify its stagnation. The strong spirit uses the enemy of failure as an instructor.
6. The poison of pity. In our modern culture, pity is often mistaken for a virtue. Nietzsche saw it as the opposite. He viewed it as one of the most deceptive and dangerous of all social emotions, a subtle poison disguised as kindness. To understand a person's character, you must analyze their relationship with pity from both sides of the transaction. First, the person who constantly seeks pity. They display their suffering like a credential because they have learned that pity from others is a powerful tool of manipulation. It is a way to lower the expectations of everyone around them. It is a silent plea, "Do not demand too much of me, for I am broken." It is a preemptive excuse for their own inaction, a way to garner attention without the hard work of earning respect. Even more revealing is the person who is quick to give pity. This is often not an act of compassion, but a subtle act of condescension. To pity someone is to establish a hierarchy. It is a declaration. I, the strong and stable one, am looking down upon you, the weak and unfortunate one. It allows the giver to feel virtuous and superior without ever having to do the difficult, messy work of true empathy. Empathy, which is the currency of the strong, is a bridge built between two equals. It says, "I see your struggle, and I see the strength in you to overcome it." Pity, the currency of the weak, is a wall built between a superior and an inferior. It says, "I see your weakness, and I will keep you there
because it makes me feel strong. This distinction is a master key to unlocking a deeper level of perception.
Now, you can see past the social mask and into the very core of a person's character. You can distinguish the spirit that metabolizes pain into power from the spirit that is slowly, year after year, being poisoned by it. But there is one final code. It's the rarest, but it is the most important. It is the code that reveals not just a person's psychology in its current state, but their potential for true greatness. If this part has revealed something profound to you, subscribe so you do not miss the final, most powerful piece of this puzzle.
The third code, the mark of the free spirit. After you have filtered out the deafening noise of the herd and understood a person's fundamental relationship with their own suffering, you can finally begin to look for the positive signs. These are the markers of a truly powerful, independent, and self-actualized individual, what Nietzsche called the free spirit, the necessary precursor to his famous concept of the Übermensch or overman. These are the people who do not just follow the values of their society, they have the courage to create their own. They are rare, and for that reason their presence can be intimidating and disruptive to the herd. But their signs, once you know them, are unmistakable and serve as a profound source of inspiration for what is possible for the human spirit. 7. The generosity of power. Weakness is inherently transactional and operates from a mindset of scarcity. It hoards resources, information, and praise, believing that there is only a finite amount to go around. If I give you some, it thinks, I will have less. True strength, Nietzsche argued, operates from the opposite principle, a mindset of abundance. It is like the sun. It gives of itself without calculation and without depletion. Watch a person who has achieved a position of genuine power, be it financial, intellectual, or social. Do they use that power to create gates, to hoard information, and to solidify their own position by keeping others down? Or do they use it to open doors for others, to mentor, to share knowledge freely, and to invest in the potential of those around them? The free spirit is a fountain, not a drain. They understand that true power is not diminished by sharing it, it is magnified. 8. The laughter of the free. Nietzsche famously declared, "I would only believe in a God who could dance." For him, a sense of lightness, joy, and laughter were the ultimate signs of having overcome the spirit of gravity, the heavy, resentful seriousness of a life mired in wounds and herd thinking. Pay very close attention to what a person finds laughable. The spirit of ressentiment only has one mode of laughter, Schadenfreude. It is the cheap, bitter joy felt at the failures and misfortunes of others. It is the laughter of the powerless, a temporary ego boost. The free spirit, however, possesses a much deeper, more expansive sense of humor. They can laugh at the grand, beautiful absurdity of the world. But most importantly, they can laugh at themselves. To be able to genuinely laugh at your own ego, your own past follies, your own sacred cows, and your own self-seriousness is the ultimate sign that you are its master, not its slave. It demonstrates a profound level of self-acceptance and psychological freedom. 9. The celebration of the enemy. This is the final, most difficult, and most counterintuitive test of a strong spirit. A weak person, defined by the herd and their wounds, complains endlessly about their enemies, their rivals, and their obstacles. They wish for a life of ease, free from conflict, which is a wish for a life without growth. A strong spirit, Nietzsche believed, understands a profound and terrifying secret. You become who you fight. Therefore, they do not dread a worthy enemy, they rejoice in one. A powerful opponent, a difficult challenge, or a sharp and intelligent critic is not a curse, it is a blessing in disguise. An enemy provides the necessary resistance for growth, the way weight provides resistance to a muscle. They force you to become sharper, stronger, more disciplined, and more creative. Listen to how someone speaks of their rivals. Do they whine, complain, and gossip, wishing for their failure? Or do they speak of them with a certain grudging respect, acknowledging that the challenge has forced them to become better? The weak spirit seeks to destroy their enemies. The free spirit seeks to overcome them, and in doing so, to overcome themselves.
These three codes, the herd instinct, the scar and the wound, and the mark of the free spirit, are not intended as a cold, clinical toolkit for judging others from a superior position. They are lenses for clarity. They are a means to see the world and the people in it with a radical honesty that is, at first terrifying, but ultimately liberating. But this entire journey was never just about reading other people. That was only the first step. The true purpose was to give you a mirror. It was about seeing the herd inside yourself. It was about looking honestly at your own relationship with your scars and asking if they have become your identity. It was about discovering your own, perhaps dormant potential to laugh, to create, to be generous, and to grow into a free spirit.
The world is a stage full of actors reading from a script they didn't write. But now you no longer have to be a passive member of the audience, nor a mindless actor. You can see the real person behind your own role and behind the roles of others. You now have the essential tools for how to read anyone instantly. Use them not to control, but to connect. Use them not to dominate, but to understand. And use them, most importantly, to finally break free. Which of these 9 signs hit you the hardest, and why? Share your insight in the comments below. Your story could be the catalyst for someone else's awakening. And if this journey has ignited a desire for a clearer vision, subscribe. There is so much more to see.